In the name of the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit, one God, Amen. My beloved, I greet you all and wish that you're all doing well. We're returning back to our series of mental health awareness, and I would encourage everyone to revise the past two sessions. I think the IT service have recorded them as mental health awareness part 1 and 2. And to continue with us today in part 3. Let me just go over what we established so far very quickly and then continue from there. The importance is of revising is that it's a bit complex, and we need to uh, go over it several times so that it can kick in. Many of you have sent me saying to keep going. So I'm encouraged and excited to continue with this series until we get to the details of it and benefit the maximum of it. So what we established so far in the previous two sessions, that God has created man uh, um, with three components that we call the body, the soul, and the spirit, as this diagram shows. And it's titled The Christian Anthropology. And the word anthropology is, it means the study of man, or the science of man. So what we believe is that God has, with his own hands, he took the dust and he fashioned man, as Saint Basil the Great calls it. And then this body that he created included the brain and many other systems, as you all know, in the body systems. There's the central nervous system that exists as well, which includes the body and the spinal cord. What we have established so far is that when this body is run by blood supply, and this brain and the central nervous system is run by the blood circulation, uh, it it produces a function which is not physical function. It's psychological, that is not touchable, is intangible, like the what we tend to call the psyche or the soul. Some people call it the mind, but we for this presentation we're calling it the psyche or the soul. um, and then we know that God has breathed into this system a breath of life from him, that gave the three components, the body and the soul and the spirit, that are in front of you. We made a distinction between those three, and we mentioned that in the Bible, it was mentioned in First Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 23. It says, "Now may the God of peace himself sanctify you completely, and may your whole spirit, soul, and body be preserved blameless at the coming of the Lord Jesus Christ." We also show this diagram in which it illustrates those three components, and they are interconnected. We spoke about how they are interconnected with each other. So what we have discussed is that the part on the left side of the screen was covered in the second lecture. The second lecture was about the body-soul connection. And what we had used, I'm sorry, the presentation is a little bit not showing. Let me just cancel the PowerPoint mode, because sometimes it causes this disfigurement. So I'm just going to use it that way. Okay, so so we started the interrelationship between the three of them. In the second lecture, we focused on this one here, which is the body soul relationship, um, which we give an analogy of by the, the hardware software, like the computer has a hardware stuff that would be representing the brain, and then the software stuff that is representing the soul that is not physical, like we said. And we particularly talked about the soul being composed of the thinking, the emotions, and the will. But I want to highlight in the Bible, and this slide is new. I added this slide. The couple of verses in the Bible that says that the the blood circulation in the body is what gives us the life or gives us the soul. So in Leviticus 17:11, it says, "For the life of the flesh is in the blood." And in Deuteronomy 12:23, it says, "Only be sure that you do not eat the blood, for the blood is the life." In Arabic, actually, it illustrates بتقول نفس الجسد هي في الدم ولا تأكل الدم لأن الدم هو النفس. So what my point here is that if we take away the spirit and we think from an atheistic mind, they tend to think that all what the human being is a brain that is run by blood, and that brain is composed of emotions, feelings, and thoughts. That if the blood supply get cut off, the person dies and becomes no more, does not exist. Obviously, this is not what we believe. What we believe is that God has breathed into this system, which here is the brain. We saw the brain here. And this breath gave that system the extension of being godly. And we would cover that today. But just to finish up, what we did before was the body soul connection, which is based on that blood supply. And what we had said last time is that things could go wrong in that system just because that blood supply or that those chemicals were disturbed. And we have said that this list of disorders, the mood disorders, anxiety disorders, psychotic disorders, eating disorders, personality disorders, substance related disorders, all of these disorders could arise from the disturbance of that blood chemicals in the brain. And that's when we highlighted the importance of seeking help in all these disorders that we discussed. Here we discussed the depression, we discussed the bipolar disorder, the premenstrual dysphoric disorder, the anxiety disorders. All of that you will find in the previous presentation. We also concluded by saying that God has indicated in the Bible that to honor the medicine, the medical field, including medications. So that's where we stop. For today, we're going to focus on the other side, which is the spirit-soul connection. So as you can see that God has breathed into Adam, and Adam became a living being. That's what the Genesis tells us. This software now is not only run by that blood supply from the physical body or the physical brain, but it has a godly extension that gave it so many blessings, and we will cover that. So we are going to look on that side now of the formula, which is the spirit soul connection. Let's talk about what did we gain as humans from that breath of life from God. The first thing we got was that this system, the soul, our being, became immortal, became eternal. In other words, it's not only dust and goes back to dust. If we disregard the spirit, cut it off, then yes, we are dust and going back to dust. But then our souls, because it got that breath from God, it became eternal or immortal. It has the capacity of living forever with God. There is a verse, a beautiful verse in Ecclesiastes 3:11 that says that God has put eternity in their hearts. يعني without which or except that no one except that means without which no one can find out the work that God does from beginning to the end. Without that breath of life, we will be confused. We don't know what our meaning. Look at what we also got here is that we got something called objective moral values, which means that we had a conscience. All human beings know what's right and what's wrong without nobody teaches them. Anyone would know that to rape someone or to murder someone, that's wrong. Where is this coming from? Is from the breath of life that God gave us, that gave our mentality, our conscience, ability objectively to delineate between good or bad. In Romans 2:15, it says, the work of the law was written in their hearts, their conscience, bearing witness between themselves that their thoughts accusing or else excusing them. We do have a conscience that we took from God. Also, this breath gave us the significance of life. So there are some questions that everyone will one day will question themselves. We call them the existential questions. Who am I? Why am I here? Where am I going? Without this breath of life from God that was breathed into our souls, we would be lost and have no clue about the answers of these questions. But now we can boldly say we are children of God. We are created by His breath, but we function by Him. Why am I here? Well, I'm here to enjoy His presence, His life inside of me, His breath inside of me. Where am I going? Well, I'm preparing myself for eternal life with Him. Look at some of the atheists. One of the atheists here wrote this, that don't believe that there is an extension with God. He says, the man is the product of causes which had no prevision of the end they were achieving, that has origin, his growth, his hopes and fears, his loves and his beliefs are but the outcome of accidental collections of atoms, that no fire, no heroism, no intensity of thought of and feeling can preserve an individual life beyond the grave, that all the labors of the ages, all the devotion, all the inspirations, all the noonday brightness of human genius are destined to extinction in the vast death of the solar system, and that the whole temple of man's achievement must inevitably be buried beneath the debris of a universe in ruins. What a sad and gloomy view of man without the breath of God. Basically, what he says here that man has no significance whatsoever. That's what he believes as an atheist that is also only run by the brain. But what we believe is that God, by breathing into our soul, that mind there that is thinking, these emotions in there, and this will now is sanctified. So we do not only have a life, but we have a life that has a godly quality. In other words, without this breath, our thoughts and intellects, our minds, will totally be confined into our own selves, and we will simply develop narcissists or egocentrics. And if we only have emotions without the breath of life sanctifying them, then we will be addicted to all kinds of lusts and materialistic things. If all what our wills are going after uh, uh, has has nothing to do with the breath of God, then we will develop greed and vainglory and looking for only this life and its pleasures. And these are all mental health issues. These are mental health issues that are impairments due to loss of the spiritual If we take away this spirit from the system, and we're only functioning as body, soul, hardware, software with the blood supply, and that's it, then we will live a life that is described here by some of the verses. uh, Take this for example. The Lord in Genesis 6 looked at man and said, "My spirit shall not strive with man forever, for he is indeed flesh, yet his days shall be done 120 years." So even the lifespan of man dropped after God has seen that they disconnected themselves, or we disconnected ourselves from him. The New Testament tells us, do not quench the spirits. It's not a good idea to quench the spirit. We become like animals. We just run by the brain and its blood. Um, and also in Jude 1:19, people like that would be described like these are sensual persons who cause divisions, not having the spirit. It's very, very clear. James also says this wisdom does not descend from above, but is earthly, sensual, and demonic. That's what happens when our brains are not enlightened by the Spirit of God. Uh, Briefly discussing specific mental health disturbances due to the disconnection from God. Well, addictions, all kinds of addictions. Many substance and behavioral addictions in their core arise from losing the spirit effect on satisfying the brain pleasure centers, which turn to other sources. In other words, God has put in that brain, if you recall that brain picture, in the middle there are pleasure centers God has put in there. Why did he put it in there? Because he breathes in it and attracts it to him to become addicted to him, and therefore we spend our lives praising and glorifying his name and living a very godly life. When we disconnect that brain from that source of the breath of life, from God, this brain becomes looking for something to cling and to attach to. And what happens is whenever that happens, that attachment turns to be an addiction, whether it's a substance addiction or a behavioral addiction or a person addiction, but at the core, it is an addiction. So let's not leave our spirits to lose that effect on our brains, otherwise we'll turn to be addicts. Other premorbid and morbid personalities arise from that disconnect. Low self esteem, paranoia, feeling like you're attacked, uh, eccentricity, like becoming weird, you're afraid. Remember the picture of Cain after he killed his brother Abel? And he was running from who? There was no one in there, right? The desert was empty, all his. But he felt like someone is after him. That's paranoia, that's anxiety. Adam and Eve, after disconnecting from God, they turned to be so shameful, doubtful, anxious, depressed, fearful. They're running away. All these negative mental health disturbances happen just because of distancing from God or cutting off the spirit influence. Also, narcissism, as I mentioned before, egocentrism, psychopathic tendencies, like feeling that you're angry, someone who's angry or disregarding everyone, identity confusion, uh, feeling lost, dependency on someone, can't get rid of that relationship, fear. All of these are, whether premorbid or morbid personality disorders, arise from the disconnect of the spirit. Also, passions, the brain, sorry, the soul uh, components that I mentioned before, the will, the thinking, the emotions, if they are not protected by the breath of life, they turn into passions. I wrote some of them here, and there is a famous book called Seven Deadly Passions by the church fathers. It's the ego, the lust, the gluttony, the slothfulness, the anger, the greed, the vainglory, and envy. Um, That's why Christ came, my beloved, with this statement, and I love to call it the mission statement of Christ. The first time he spoke in his ministry in Nazareth, in the temple, he took the book of Isaiah and said, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me too." And he listed disturbed mental disorders, preach the gospel to the poor, has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, proclaim liberty to the captives, recovery to the sight, to the blind, to set the people at liberty those who are oppressed. That's why in the book of Proverbs, it says the spirit of a man, this breath of life, will sustain him in sickness. So if that man is sick from any of those ailments that we mentioned, the Spirit of God will lift him up. Or if that soul is sick by the previous sessions disorders, like the depressions, all the clinical psychiatric disorders, but he's connected to God through the Spirit, then the Spirit of God will lift him. But if that spirit is broken, who will bear it? That's what basically the paraphrase of that verse. And then finally, be transformed by the renewal of your mind. That also tells us that we can renew our minds by the work of the Holy Spirit inside of us. I hope that's not too much for many, but please go over it more and more until you digest it. Now let me go and repeat this in Arabic. God bless you all. الحقيقة هنكمل أحبائي في منهج اللي احنا بدأناه، واللي احنا قلناه لغاية دلوقتي إن ربنا خلق الإنسان من جسد ونفس وروح، واللي قلناه إنه الجسد والنفس مع بعض بيشتغلوا زي الهاردوير سوفت وير. والمرة اللي فاتت قلنا إنه لما بيتعب المخ ده نتيجة اضطراب في الكيميائيات بتاعة الدم، بيحصل اضطراب في النفس. وهنا في بعض الآيات في العهد القديم بتقول نفس الجسد هي في الدم، واحترز أن لا تأكل الدم لأن الدم هو النفس. ففي إشارة هنا إنه بطريقة معينة لما ربنا بيحط حياة في الجسد بيحطها عن طريق الإيه؟ الدم، ان هو يسيركليت في المخ زي ما قلنا، ويطلع النفسيه ديت. ولكن مش بنقف عند كده، اللي بيقف عند كده الحيوان. انما الانسان بنلاقي انه مش بس هو المخ ده، ولكن هو في نفخه من الله في هذا الانسان. لكن اللي المره اللي فاتت قلناه كان الجزئيه بتاعه علاقه المخ الجسدي بنفسيه الانسان، وقلنا لو يحصل اضطراب في الخلايا ديت نتيجه اضطراب في كميه المخ، بيحصل الامراض اللي احنا يعني ناقشناها المره اللي فاتت، زي الاكتئاب المزاج، اضطراب المزاج ذو القطبين والذهان وغيره. ده اللي احنا قلناه المره اللي فاتت. النهارده عايزين نتكلم في الناحيه الثانيه بقى. هل يا ترى المنظومه ديت بتضطرب لما ربنا كان نفخ فيها نفخته؟ بتضطرب ولا لا من غيرها؟ بتضطرب من غير النفخه ديت. ليه بقى؟ لان النفخه دي عملت ايه في الانسان؟ ادته اولا معنى الابديه. ففي جامعة 3:11 بيقول أن الله جعل الأبدية في قلبهم التي بلاها لا يدرك الإنسان العمل الذي عمله الله من البداية للنهاية. بمعنى إيه؟ يعني لو النفخة دي اختفت تأثيرها، الإنسان هيتلخبط جدا، لأن النفخة دي اللي بتديله معنى إن هو هيستمر بعد موت مخه، بعد موت جسده. فالإنسان يضطرب لو فقد معنى الحياة الأبدية ده. برضو النفخة دي ادت الإنسان مقدرة على إن هو يميز بين الخير والشر، حتى لو كان إنسان يعني مش مسيحي. ليه؟ لأن في نفخة اتنفخت في البشر كلها بتقول للإنسان إيه الصح وإيه اللي غلط. زي في روميا 2:15 الذين يظهرون عمل ناموس مكتوبا في قلوبهم. يعني ربنا بيقول ان هو كتب في قلب الناس بالنفخة ديت الناموس بتاعه، شاهدا ايضا ضميرهم وافكارهم فيما بينهم مشتكية او محتكة. برضو النفخة دي ادت اجابة على اسئلة حيوية جدا. انا مين؟ انا ابن الله لان هو اللي نفخ فيا. انا ليه موجود؟ علشان استمتع بالنفخة بتاعته دي في حياتي وعملها فيا. انا رايح فين؟ انا رايح له لان هو اداني امتداد منه، لان انا ابقى ايه ليا امتداد في ايه في الحياه الابديه. زي ما قال لمارسا، قال لها ايه؟ قال لها من امن بي ولو مات فسيحيا. هنا انا جايب يعني كلمه من واحد ملحد، فيلسوف ملحد، بيسكلي ترجمتها بيقول ان الانسان من غير الانسان عباره عن هو ايمانه كده، يعني عشان ما هو مستبعد بقى النفخه اللي قلناها دي. فبالنسبه له هو لما المخ يقف خلاص الانسان انتهى. فبيقول الانسان وكل حياته دي ملهاش اي معنى، لانه ايه هينتهي في التراب في الاخر يعني. برضو النفخة بتدي معنى للحياة، مش معنى، بتدي طابع للحياة مقدس. فبيصبح الفكر فكر سماوي، المشاعر مشاعر سماوية، الإرادة تخضع لله وتسلم ليه. من غير النفخة ديت لما تنطفي الإنسان نفسيته دي بيسيطر عليها حاجات أخرى اسمها الأهواء، الباشنز. فالاهواء ديت مثلا لو المخ ما فكرش وعبد ربنا وفرح بيه يفكر في ذاته فينتفخ. ولو مشاعره ما اتشعلقتش في ربنا تبص تلاقيها تتشعلق في اي حاجه ماديه ويدمن الحاجات ديت. او مشيئته لو ما سلمهاش لربنا يبتدي ان هو ايه يبقى مشيئته في العالم واقتناء العالم، ويعني زي ما بيقولوا يكوش على العالم بقى، زي ما احنا بنقول لا تحب العالم ولا الاشياء اللي في العالم. فلو احنا فكرنا وشيلنا بقى النفخه ديت هتبص تلاقي الايات ديت. قال الرب لا يدين روحي في الانسان الى الابد. لما ربنا بص كده في تكوين 6 على الانسان بعد ما فسد وقال ايه ده الانسان ايه بعد خالص عني، لانه روحي خلاص طفاها يعني او مش شغال بيها. في الانجليش بتقول shall not strive، يعني روحي مش شغاله في الانسان، فهو بشر، اصبح بشر يعني زي الحيوان بقى. وتكون ايامه 120 سنه. عشان كده في العهد الجديد سالونيكي الاولى تقول لا تطفئوا الروح، خلي بالكم. ويقول برضو يوصفهم يهوذا في رسالة يهوذا هؤلاء هم معتزلون بأنفسهم نفسانيون لا روح لهم. الآية دي واضحة قوي إنه في نفس وروح. يعني اللي يعيش بس بالنفسية اللي هي طالعة من المخ وأفكاره دي بس يبقى نفساني لا روح له. لكن اللي فيه نفخة دي مفعلها أصبح إنسان روحاني. زي ما علمنا بابا شنودة، في إنسان طبيعي وإنسان روحاني وانسان حيواني بقى اللي هو الجسد كمان بعد شويه، يعني الطبيعي ده الجسد بيتملك منه يبقى انسان حيواني او جسداني. برضو في رساله يعقوب ليست هذه الحكمه نازله من فوق بل هي ارضيه نفسانيه شيطانيه. لانه لو النفخه دي طلعت هيخش مكانها فكر ايه؟ فكر الشيطان. ايه اللي بيحصل؟ الامراض النفسيه. هل في امراض نفسيه بتحصل لما الانسان يبعد عن ربنا؟ شوفها كل يوم. الادمانات كلها في صميمها عباره عن انه المخ اللي احنا قلناه في خلايا للذه والمتعه. المفروض ان ربنا لما بينفخ فيها الخلايا دي بتعبد الله، بتدمن حب الله. الانسان بيتحول ان هو زي ما شفنا كده القديسين بتوعنا، الانبا بولا مش عايز يطلع من المغاره لانه واقع في حب ربنا، وانبا بشوي بيربط راسه مش عايز يبطل صلاه. ادمان مقدس. ربنا خالق الخلايا دي عشان تقع في حب الله وتعيش بيه. فلو الخلايا دي فقدت يعني تأثير الروح عليها بتتحول انها تمسك تكلبش في اي حاجة تانية وتدمنها. يا اما تدمن مخدرات بعيد عنكم، او يا اما تدمن علاقات، يا اما تدمن حاجات سلوكية كتيرة قوي زي القمار وغيره وغيره وغيره. في برضو أمراض شخصية بتنبع من البعد عن الله، زي الواحد يجيله ضعف في إحساسه بذاته خالص، أو خوف من اللا شيء، زي ما قلنا قايين كان خايف مفيش حد حواليه. آدم وحواء جالهم قلق وخوف وكسوف وخجل، وكل ده مجرد انهم قطعوا هذا الاتصال مع روح الله. برضو قلنا النرجسية وان الواحد يبقى معادي المجتمع كله، وان هو يبقى متلخبط في حياته مش فاهم نفسه، او معتمد على حد، او خايف من حد. كل دي امراض بتيجي نتيجة القطع الصلة مع روح الله. وقلنا موضوع الأهواء في الرسمة اللي فاتت. هختم بقول السيد المسيح اللي أنا بسميه تقريبا هو رسالته اللي بيقولها لما دخل الناصرة وقال: روح الرب علي لأنه مسحني لأبشر المساكين بالروح، وإني أشفي منكسر القلوب وأطلق المنسحقين في الحرية. كل ديت إشارات للناس المنسحقين نفسيا بسبب تباعدهم عن ربنا. لذلك يا أحبائي، زي ما اتكلمنا على أمراض نفسية من الناحية ديت، من الناحية الجسدية يعني، في أمراض برضو نفسية من الناحية الروحية، وربنا يحفظنا كلنا من الاثنين. وهنكمل مع بعض ازاي الوقاية وازاي العلاج بنعمة ربنا من هذه الأشياء. نصلي مع بعض. يا أبانا الذي في السماوات يتقدس اسمك، تكن مشيئتك في السماء، خبزنا كفاف أعطينا، واغفر لنا ذنوبنا كما نغفر نحن أيضا، ولا تدخلنا في تجربة لكن نجينا من الشرير، بالمسيح يسوع ربنا، أن لك الملك والقوة والمجد إلى الأبد.